is Christopher Spera. This is the iTechGear Weekly, episode number 124. Spring forward. Help, I've fallen and I can't get up. Recorded live Sunday, March 9th, 2025, live from iTechGear Central. As I said, I'm Christopher Spera. I don't know what the hell that was. And welcome to the show.
That was our sound. That was our sound man.
Oh boy!
I was trying to do this,
and there he is, back.
And I can't get up.
Thank you.
I'm falling.
The man manning the buttons, the former contributing writer over at Gear Diary and currently the host of the Linux Link Tech Show and Living in the Retro Arcade podcast, Brother Joe McLaughlin. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well after a trip to Cincinnati.
Nice. And, of course, editor here over at iTechGear.org. Week go well for you, sir? Good week? Bad week? Week?
It was a week. It was a week.
All right. Also joining us back from the wherever he had to go, the former co-owner of WUGNET Publications.
What?
And, of course, editor here at iTechGear.org, Dr. Mr. Larry McJunkin. How are you?
That's better than Bill Gates used to call it. He came up to our booth once and said, "Oh, this is the WUGNET show." Anyway, I don't know. I'm great. I'm just a few days removed from my first of two cataract surgeries, and I have to admit it was as apprehensive as I was. It was a piece of cake, and the results are miraculous. So looking forward to having the second eye done and being able to see again.
Awesome. I line up right with you, Larry. Right with you on that one.
And those dulcet tones.
Hey.
Those dulcet tones from our contributing editor over at Gear Diary and Pocket Now. And, of course, editor here at iTechGear.org, Mr. Chris Gavula. How are you, sir?
To quote Joel, it was a week.
It was a week. Certainly was.
Yeah, it's
give us some time and I'll tell you how weak it was.
But I'm
Thank you. I'm here all
yeah, it definitely it could be better, could have been worse, but we're still chugging along and we're here because this is this is our highlight of our week some weeks,
Some weeks yes. And I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
What are you
still glad to be here, even though I feel like I've fallen and I can't get up. So
well, daylight savings kind of crept up on me.
Yeah, doesn't it though? Yeah,
it crept up on me. I was not aware that this was the week that I would be losing an hour of sleep, which I did not appreciate.
No, me neither.
I never do, and I don't.
And my brain never links up during the day. That's with this first day.
No. I've always got a double clutch and try to re-engage, and it never works. Those gears have been stripped. So
long time ago.
Yeah.
Oh,
I just don't understand why we haven't done away with this already. All right.
But the argument isn't so much whether we should do away with it. I think most people agree with that. I think the argument is which way do you go? Which one do you land on?
You land on the daylight savings time.
But there's
you get the extra hour, and you keep the extra hour those 8 months that you want it.
The interesting thing is there's people that argue they want the evening, they want that extra hour in the evening, and there's other people that want it in the morning and a lot of that has to do with, do you take your kids to and from school? Do you need the extra light for doing your farming? Whatever it is you got to do, it depends on your use case. But for some reason, people can't agree which one's better.
Don't give me the UC on this one.
Hey. You love the use cases. But Apple's been up to a lot of nonsense this week, haven't they?
They have. What? So
way
this was
too
a week.
Much.
Speaking of it being a week, right? This was a week for Apple because they had more than one release this week that they announced.
And we said last week we felt the rumor was that there'd be a new MacBook Air this week, and Tuesday came and it wasn't a MacBook Air. But later in the week it was.
Later in the week it was, but the one that we thought was going to come on Tuesday wasn't.
So we got tripped up a little bit, but it still came out this week like we expected.
Yes. So Chris, why don't you go ahead?
Hey, we're still batting 1,000.
We're still batting 1,000.
Go ahead and review for us what Apple has in
So we've got a couple of things that came out, right? We have as we just said, the new MacBook Air, the M4 based MacBook Air, which we'll talk about these in a little more detail in a moment, but let's sort of itemize what we've got, right? We got a new studio, or an upgraded studio.
A Mac Studio.
Right? We got a new iPad Air.
A new iPad Air.
Yeah, there you go. And I should point out that the Studio comes in multiple variants too.
It
so,
does.
You know,
it does, because they
and
also released not only the Studio in it with an M4 variant, but they released it with an M3 generation chip as well.
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting decision to make.
Yeah,
unless
they
were
gave
having
it an
trouble,
Ultra.
unless they were having trouble getting an M4 Ultra out there. I don't know, or it would raise the price so high, or who knows?
Maybe, I don't know.
And there's a lot of things out there now comparing those devices and those the performance numbers on what those look like. But there's some conversations about whether the new iPad Air should have come out as an M4. I think the answer, in my opinion, is kind of no, because the Pro is already a 4. To make the Air a 4, what was the point? And
I don't even know why they brought it out. I mean, it doesn't have anything new on it.
It's still an upgrade over its predecessor, though. It's still an upgrade.
Yeah, but with the M5 so close, right? With the M5 so close, just months away, you know.
Yeah, but until they release that, you know. But this, I think that it does. Didn't the predecessor Air have an M1 in it? So this has an M3. It's still a couple of steps up.
Right.
So it's not like they're, you know.
So we've got the MacBook Air, we have the iPad Air, we have the Mac Studio.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
What else did we get? Did we get anything else?
Air, Studio, iPad Air. Am I missing something here?
New iPad?
Well, we just said that one, so I think we're okay. Yeah.
No,
the base.
They got the base one listed as new on their website right now too.
Yeah, right. You're right.
But that might have been before last week.
Right.
So.
But it's relatively newish, even if it wasn't from this week or not. It's still new. It's still in their newer stream of things.
That actually must be new, because it's actually still listed for pre-order. So
right. So there's the three things that we got, right, was the MacBook Air, the iPad Air, and the Mac Studio.
And the regular iPad, according to Joel,
and the regular
iPad is pre-ordered,
and a redesigned keyboard too, I think.
Oh, for the iPad Air, for the iPad Airs, yes,
I think so, yeah.
They got a new one, not the Pro. They didn't get anything new for that, but I will say the one thing. Let's talk about the Air for a minute first.
Which one?
The M3 Air that's out now, the new one.
Okay.
We should point out that it comes in two variants, probably depending on what level you buy it at. It has either an 8-core or a 9-core GPU, depending on what level you buy it at. This is important because this same kind of thing happened with the M4 Pro, and people didn't realize this a lot.
Okay.
There's a slight difference in performance on the two. So again, when you go up the food chain, you get the better one. That's kind of what it smells like.
Okay.
So, but they're touting some 2 times faster than the older iPad Air, the M1 based iPad Air, 3.5 times faster than the iPad Air with the A14 Bionic chip, which is the predecessor before that, 40% faster graphic performance than the M1 iPad Air, and 60% faster AI workflows than the M1 iPad Air, which isn't hard considering there's not that many AI workflows, but we won't go down that path.
No, not yet anyway.
Not yet. We're getting there. We'll get there. That's the new iPad Air, and the base iPad is pretty much just if I remember correctly, it's really just kind of a real basics upgrade to that device. Kind of just bringing it back in line. It's still on the A series chip.
Sure.
If I remember correctly, they haven't taken it off the A series. And the only downside of that for people who want that base one is you don't get any Apple Intelligence. You don't get any of those features with that chip.
You don't. Not with the no.
You know, the people buying that probably don't need Apple.
I would
AI.
say you're right, Larry. But you know as well as I do, there's been squawking out on the boards about this stuff and about what they didn't get, right? And it's always about what they didn't get.
True.
On this, you want to talk about the Studio next, or the?
Sure. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about the Studio. All right, because you can get this. This one I thought was interesting. You know, it's the beefed up. It's the Mac Mini, but it's taller, right? It's got that same chassis as the older Mac Mini, but it's taller. There's more computing power in this thing, and it's got Right now, you can get it with either an M4 Max or an M3 Ultra, which is interesting.
And
Right?
let's be honest, it kind of competed with the Mac Pro is
It
really
did.
where it stole from more than from the Mini. The
Yes.
Mini, and this is a much bigger step than the Mini, much more expensive than the Mini,
Oh yeah.
of course. But
Yeah.
yeah, so that's kind of exciting. They went with like you said, the M4 Max and the
Max.
M3 Ultra.
Right.
Very big ups, very big step ups. I mean, there are things like they upgraded the number of cores and
Right.
the speeds, and it's like, oh my gosh, this thing is just over the top. But it was over the top before, and the older version too, and people were really excited about the older version. So I'm very curious to see where this one goes.
Right.
I
I
mean,
am too, because it still remains the least sold Mac in the lineup.
That's true. That's true. But
yeah,
for those that are interested and curious about what's the difference between a Max and an Ultra,
please.
the M4 Max is a single core or a single died chip, if you will. All right. It's one system on a chip, right? The M3 Ultra is effectively two M3 Maxes that are attached, right, to
Yep.
each other.
Mhm.
And you get that they will work together in tandem and give you basically double the computing power of the M3 Ultra. All right, or M3 Max, M3 Max. So the Ultra is two Maxes, and it doubles the power there. So I don't know where the M4 Max stacks up against the M3 Max, and which one is
Yeah.
got the bigger juice, right?
We're,
Which one's more
well, the
power?
Maxes should line up, and the four should be faster. You would think so.
To me, it's
In the
almost like we
Maxes.
had a whole stockpile of M3 Ultras out back. So we thought we would bring this thing out and use them up. I
Yeah,
mean,
but that
that's
chip is new.
literally
But the chip is new.
the M3 Ultra.
I mean, in terms of being used in this thing,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but it existed previously though.
Right.
so,
It
but
did.
I don't know.
but the thing that's interesting is, so as far as they're concerned, the M3 Ultra is actually the faster of the two boxes,
Yeah.
Mhm.
because
is.
It is.
and it's $2,000 more for that privilege. So
Yeah.
take it for what it's worth.
Yeah, how
Right.
much faster?
Both M3 Ultra variants have a 32 core neural engine, double the core count of the non-Ultra chips, right?
Yep.
When it comes to memory, the 14 core M4 Max is limited to 36 gig, with the 16 core version offering 48, 64, and 128 gig capacities. The M3 Ultra version included 96 gigabytes or 256 gigabytes for the 28 core CPU.
Ugh.
How
with
is
an
the
extra
M3 Ultra going to handle
512
AI as
with an
opposed to
extra-
the M4?
Well, with an extra
That's a good
512
question.
gigabyte option for the top chip variant. So there's some if you're really looking to do some serious video work.
Yeah, and I was gonna say that's who this thing's really targeted at, right? People who move from video workstations. That's what this thing really is.
This is targeted at those animators at Pixar, or at or folks that are doing 2K to 4K video content every single day and need something hard to go ahead and render.
I don't know that they're going to care as much about the AI cycles. Although, again, two M3 Ultras together, the M3s, tying those two chips together, probably still gives you some pretty decent cycles on AI. But really, the big thing here is more about
serious push out of it.
But the thing is more about raw horsepower on these things than anything else. I mean, that's what these devices are for.
Right. I mean, you'll get a minimum of 512 gigabyte SSD up to different variations depending on your processor and memory, up to 8 terabytes of storage. So the M3 model starts at 1 terabyte and goes up to 16. So
yeah, much more storage.
So so you're really talking. That's really a video production machine, right? So you're doing commercials, you're doing animation, you're
absolutely true.
Things, and not necessarily stills or big graphic. I mean, you're doing that's that hardcore crunching video.
But the complaint people are having is something you kind of mentioned, Larry. People, are kind of saying, well, why didn't we get an M4 Ultra? That's the question people are asking. It's we're certainly seeing people, but again, let's not denigrate where the M3 Ultra, putting those together like that has made for a decent machine. And the question is, why wasn't there an M4 Ultra? Is what people are asking. Gee, that doesn't make much sense.
True.
From what I saw, it's not every version at this point. Not every version is going generation of chip is going to get an Ultra version.
Well, there's a cycle to these things too, as well, right?
Yes, there is a cycle to these things. More than likely the Macs, unless you're seriously, jonesing for some processing power because you're at Pixar and it takes you, a gajillion hours to render, a half an hour worth of Toy Story 5,
You always want more then, right? You always want more. I get it.
Or something like that.
But other than these things that folks have been kind of concerned about and complaining about, we do have something that people are very happy about, and that would be the M4 MacBook Air.
Yes.
Because not only did it come out with better specs, it came out at a cheaper price.
It did come out.
And don't forget the marketing part of this too. I mean, there's an aspect of we bring out a new name, new chip, people are going to buy it.
Right. Right. But it starts at, I thought it started at $999, didn't it?
The MacBook Air?
The MacBook Air.
Yeah, it's $100 less than it was last year.
Yep. It starts
with an 8-core with 256 gig of SSD storage and 16 gig of unified memory.
But the big news with that one, of course, is the multiple monitor support with your shell open.
Up to 2 external displays, which
those are not just 2 external displays; they're 2 6K external displays.
Yeah, so it would probably, your standard 27-inch monitor, or even 32-inch monitor, you're probably going to get 3 or so of those on there hanging off of that because they aren't going to come anywhere close to 6K. So the standard everyday user who wants a really good Mac that's got some decent processing power, with more than a couple of displays, I think you're going to be just fine.
And a new color, kids.
Yeah.
Midnight and Sky Blue, and no silver.
Yeah, Midnight's been around, but Sky Blue is new.
Yeah, Midnight was introduced with the M2.
Right.
Air.
And we got rid of this space gray, right? That's what we got rid of.
Yep.
So
no space gray, no silver, which is kind of surprising. No rose gold or anything.
Yeah, because Apple's always said that silver is still their best seller. Wonder why they would not.
That's what I've heard too.
That's the only color I'll buy.
Looking at the Sky Blue.
No, they have silver. I'm sorry. I'm looking at their website right now. They have silver. They have Sky Blue. They have Starlight, which is
a champagne kind of color.
And then they have Midnight. Those are the colors on the new MacBook.
Right.
That makes more sense.
Right. The 13-inch starts at $999. The 15-inch starts at $1199. And
that's $100 cheaper than last year.
Yeah. It is, which is I think kind of nice, because if you go with a 15-inch, and the prices are a little bit different, believe it or not. The color that you get. So,
well, here's what I thought was interesting. So, I remember a number of years ago. Remember when the MacBooks, the original MacBooks came out. They were white plastic, and then they came out with the black variant on it. They came out with that black variant. I remember buying that small black variant, which was a 12-inch, 13-inch screen at that point in time. I remember, right? Yep. I bought that thing fairly loaded at the time and paid just over $2,000 for it. Yep. What I can get for $2,000 now, the prices haven't really gone up, in my opinion. I mean, I can get kind of what I want for still around that $2,000 price point.
What's really cool about the starting with the M4 series chips, you're gonna even at the MacBook Air, you've got enough punch in this machine.
Oh yeah.
That if you don't need a true quote unquote pro series machine, you don't have to worry about going up. It supports more than one external more than 2 external displays, right? You got enough processing power there with your M4 chip. With a 10-core CPU, a 10-core GPU, and a 16-core neural engine.
You do.
All right. 32 gigabytes of unified memory and a 1 terabyte SSD. And you're really, that's $2,000. but I mean, really, you know,
Yeah.
that, my
A
friends,
lot of
is a
machine.
really good machine, and it should do everything, just about everything that you would be looking for it to do.
I've had an M1 MacBook Air for, what, 4 years now?
Yeah.
3 years now? 4 years now? I forget how long it's been now. And this is maybe the year I finally make that next, jump to this thing because I'm liking this thing a lot.
And it could be said that right now with their entry level computers at 16 gigabytes of memory, the average person doesn't need much more. They really don't.
No.
Right. And even at 24 gigabytes of unified memory, which is the default on the configuration that I was just going over.
Well, on the higher end configuration, right.
On the higher end 15-inch
Right.
configuration, right? I mean, it's still at $17.99. That's an amazing price for a really nice, powerful machine.
On the 13-inch, you get the 10-core CPUs and GPUs, you get the 24 gig of memory, and you get the 512 SSD for $13.99.
See, and
That's insane.
That's a great price.
That's a great price
for what you're getting, and for the device. I mean, this is a good offer this time around.
It's a nice. I mean, this is a machine that's going to last you a good 5 years minimum.
Well, like I said, I've had mine for a number of years, and I debate because I could still probably run another couple of years on it just fine.
Oh, absolutely. I've got the M1 Max MacBook Pro.
Mine's not even a Max.
I don't need another machine. I'm pushing 327, 34 or 34-inch monitors.
Yeah.
I'm a happy camper.
And I've done this. I've done a similar thing to you, except for the fact that I'm only pushing one monitor, but mine is the big 51 by whatever. It's the big ultra wide and the notebook screen. So I'm running two monitors, but really my big one is really like two. And I have to say, this is an M1 MacBook Air.
Right.
Imagine, the way that this thing is powered, this new M4 is powered. Yeah, you're absolutely going to get 3, 4, 5 years out of this thing, which is unusual for a PC these days. It really is. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see one, and I'm really seriously considering, this is going to be my next jump sometime this year.
Right. So if
same here,
I'm going to get
if Chris would give us a bonus, you could get that.
Hey,
yeah, right.
Whatever. Hey, Larry, whatever I gave you last year, add 25%.
Add 20%.
Doubling it this year, right?
Larry, that is the best performance.
It doesn't really matter. 25% or double of nothing is nothing. Anyway,
that's right.
Nothing from nothing leaves nothing.
But yeah, I'm looking at the Air. I'm debating whether I want to do 16 or 24 because honestly, 16 is probably fine for me. I edit video, but I do. It's not going to make a difference.
Well, were you thinking 13-inch or 15-inch?
13.
13. All right.
Me too.
So if you go with a 13-inch, and which is absolutely fine.
Right.
I've got all of my MacBook Airs have been 13-inch. I've never done a 15-inch Air before, right? And if you go
to me, it doesn't really matter as long as the screen is high enough resolution. You're still going to get the same kind of display. In fact, I think it'll be a little bit tighter too.
Yeah. So you're at 13 inches. Your 10-core CPU, 10-core GPU, 16 gigabyte memory, and a 512 gigabyte SSD is $11.99.
Right.
All right. The 24 gigabytes of memory is $13.99. All right. Yep. And for the way that the M series chips use memory, 16 or 24 is going to do you for sure.
Well, I was going to say, I've been on 16 with the M1 for a number of years now. And to me, having the 16 it wasn't so much about, it was more about just the overall system performance being a little bit better than you have.
I will be honest with you. I just moved from a 16 to a 24 with this new M4 Mac Mini. I don't see the difference. I really don't.
I think that makes sense. When you go from 16 to 24, I think that the difference is minimal. When you were going from 8 to 16, though, it made a difference.
Oh, yeah.
It made a boatload of difference.
Yeah, it made a big difference. And so I was buying at 16. And honestly, guys, I do the same thing with my PCs, and PCs are less efficient with memory than the Mac. The Mac is actually more efficient with its memory use. But
agreed.
Having said, great idea, great machine. Looking forward to it. Again, probably do it later this year. And we'll probably all have to, those of us who do it will probably have to write it up, won't we?
Wow,
true.
there's an idea. There's an idea.
Awesome.
You know what else could be a really cool idea? Because apparently now it's starting to make sense, depending on the use case that you fall into. Is the the iPhone Fold is now starting to make sense, at least to the folks over.
The rumors
at
are getting
95
louder, though,
Mac.
aren't they? The
Huh?
rumors are getting louder.
They are getting
Well,
louder. Larry, what's going on here?
You know what? With regard to rumors, which we don't do on this show,
No.
Not
I
often.
will still say, you have to look at who is talking. And this one is from
You
Ming
do.
Ki Kuo, and his strength is in supply chain sources. And that's what this rumor is all about. So if anybody's going to know if this will happen, it would be this guy as opposed to
True.
Gurman, who's closer to the operational side of Apple. So I don't know. The foldable iPhone, supposedly now the latest rumor, basically says it will be a book style type design, not the top down fold,
not a clamshell, but a book.
and it will feature an approximate 7.8 inch crease free inner display. Now, when they say crease free, do they mean almost crease free or crease free? Because that's a big deal for Joel and I. We're not having it.
And the previous rumors had said that Apple had some kind of amazing new hinge design.
Right.
That was there was, again, that was the previous set of rumors.
That kind of killed the crease, right?
Yeah, that's what
Right.
the rumor was.
And this book style design is a little bit of a departure from, like we said, that we previously heard. And I know it will make the majority of the folks happy. I'm not one of those. I want a phone. I don't want a freaking tablet. I want a phone. Some people would rather have a phone that'll work as a tablet. But for me, this is going to be the size of my phone, but twice as thick or nearly twice as thick. That just doesn't work for me in my pocket.
I get that.
But maybe not twice as thick. If you look at like the Oppo N5,
yes,
it's
now
the same
that which is
thickness.
a revolutionary.
Well, I looked at the Samsung, and that baby's a brick. I mean,
the Samsung is a brick,
brick.
and everybody will tell you it's probably the worst of the lot in terms of being thick.
Yeah.
If you look at the OnePlus Open, if you look at it's thinner than the Samsung by quite a bit. If you look at the new Oppo Find N5, they're very thin to the point that the folded phone in your pocket is no thicker or bigger than a regular standard, Samsung S25 or whatnot. They're about the same now.
Yeah.
Well, you brought up an interesting point earlier, which I really hope happens in email. You said maybe they'll bring them both out. Maybe they'll have a little flip type clamshell. That'd be great.
The earlier rumors were talking about both, both type of models being in there. So I don't know,
until his skinny little butt crosses the stage.
Isn't that the story?
Won't know.
And again, we can't really speculate what they'll do or not do. All we can say from our perspective is that what we would like to see happen. That's what we can talk about, right? I would like to see one. I personally prefer the book style myself, but mostly because it's nice to be able to have something that is capable of acting as a tablet in your pocket and taking up no more space than my phone takes up today.
But no matter which one it is, you can bet your little bippy it'll be over $2,000.
And you can guarantee the dang thing will sell.
They'll buy it.
Demand.
Sure it will.
And one more thing too on that is it's gonna have to be perfect for Apple.
I agree.
The crease will be a big deal for Apple fans, and they won't like it.
I think if they do it, or when they do it, it will be crease free. I think it will be.
If they do it and they do it right, which is odds are good that if they do it, they will do it right. Yeah, I would agree with you that in order to pass muster, as it will, and when we say pass muster, really it's about the Apple fans and what they will say if this thing isn't exactly what they want and they think. I mean, especially after taking so long to get there, by the way. Let's add that to the mix.
Right.
Yeah, I think you're right. And the other piece of this will be, not only will it not have the crease, will it be durable?
Apple's not known for they're not known for being first, but they are known a lot of times for being best. So
and we'll see.
And they'll have to make the changes to iOS to accommodate this thing too.
Very true. Very true.
They can't just be how it is now, but just now you
it might be a whole new OS. You never know.
But that's an interesting comment, Joel, because really right now, what Apple has to do with their iOS devices, they support I say iOS, but I'm also including iPad OS. They basically support 2 aspect ratios. Apps have to meet one of these 2 aspect ratios. Whereas on Android, because you don't know what the heck you're going to get when you buy a device,
It's like a box of chocolates.
they have to support like anything you might do, and a lot of apps don't, and that's one of the failures. I don't say of the OS. It's not a failure of the OS. It's a failure of the app developers to not accommodate those different things. So Apple, if they do this, I suspect what they'll do is they'll just accommodate specifically those aspect ratios. Maybe it's a 3rd aspect ratio, different than the iPad, different than the iPhone, but it'll still be a known fixed aspect ratio. I guarantee it won't be flexible like we see on Android. It won't be.
No.
It'll be a fixed ratio.
Which is interesting because you're looking at effectively taking a iPad mini, folding it in half, or near an iPad mini, folding it in half. All right.
Which if they did that, if that's exactly what they did, you could basically mostly use the iPad mini's ratio for your vertical. You have to do something for your horizontal, just like you do with iPad mini, right? And then your outside might be an awkward size. So that outside you might have to do a different aspect ratio for that.
Right. So you don't really know if it's going to end up being iOS or if it's going to end up being a iPad OS, or if it's going to be
something
both
different
or something completely different. iPhone OS, right? Who knows?
Or they could just blur iOS back together and just treat the ratios as different. Who
knows?
They could do that. We don't know what they're. Again, all speculation.
Everything is speculation.
All we can really talk about again is what would we like to see them do. I'd like to see them come out with a pair of devices. Quite frankly, I'd like to see them, be crease free and all that.
I'd like to see both. I'd like to see the flip version of the iPhone flip, if you will, and I would love to see the iPhone fold. Right.
Well, I think there's a market for both. We've seen that with Samsung. We've seen that with others. That
absolutely there's market
both
for
styles
both.
will sell. That we've seen this.
Yes, they will.
Let's get them out there, Apple. Come on and do us proud. Do us a good job. We'll be happy to see it. But like you guys say,
of other
vaporware, stay off of until we see Timmy on the stage, though, right?
Right. Until Tim gets his skinny little butt out on that stage and starts talking about what they're going to give us. Everything is speculation. Everything is up.
Everything is. Let's make that clear.
And we don't hang our
head.
Boy,
they're the master of that, aren't they?
Yeah, sure are.
Yeah. You know what is I think has got some legs to it though. Moving on, and I think has some legs to it. Apple's Smart Hub Command Center is going to be delayed because Siri and Apple Intelligence aren't quite there. What do you think?
No, and that's a shame because I know that not everybody out there loves HomeKit or even knows what it is, but there's a lot of people that listened to Apple over a year ago when they said 2025 will be the year we give HomeKit some love. We're going to start making some stuff. They didn't say what it was. And then the rumors came out about 8 months ago about a little Wi-Fi, a little iPad on a stick, if you will, sort of like, it kind of looks like the original version of the iMac, kind of like a little bitty bulbous base with an iPad sitting up there on it.
Yeah.
And nobody knows what it's going to look like, but there were some rumors, and some of the equipment manufacturers or in the supply chain substantiated those rumors. So I'm sure they're planning something, but now they've pretty much said themselves that it's not going to happen because Siri and the AI that they're working on right now for Siri has been delayed. So I don't know.
Well, let me think. So there's a couple of thoughts that occur to me. One is that despite the fact that I don't give a crap about HomeKit in my life, I do, however, think this hub is a good idea. For people to do, but more so, it's just another way to do the kind of HomePod thing, that we've been doing all along.
Right.
And I think it's a good way to do it with a nice display. And then so no matter how you slice it up, I think this is a good device to put into the mix of things.
Right.
But having said that, those of us who've been playing with the iOS 18 betas, we're in 18.4 betas right now. I would argue the changes that I've seen in the last few betas lead me to believe, yeah, you're nowhere close to releasing anything. It was rumored it was going to be an
Yeah.
18.3, then it was going to be an 18.4, now it's going to be an 18.5, and maybe not even 18.5.
Well,
It keeps getting pushed back, and I'm not. So I guess what I'm saying is that doesn't surprise me based on what I've been seeing.
And
I
unless
think
it's coming
too-
down the road somewhere, we haven't seen it in the developer beta, have we, Chris? It's just not there
Not
yet.
at all.
Whatever.
Not at all.
I
And that's
think
what I'm
too,
getting
they're
at.
seeing ever since AI has hit, even Google has kind of backed off from Home Hubs
Yeah.
and Home Assistant kind of things, and
Yeah.
not to mention that the Home Assistant things that did work well on the Google platform aren't working as well anymore because they added the AI and Gemini to the mix. So I think this is the struggle with where do you draw the line here? And Apple's probably going through the same thing Google's been going through, but they never made the jump that Google already did. So I mean, that's the thing. Like for example,
How do you make it all
now-
work together, sort of?
yeah. I mean, how do you make AI and the Home Assistant kind of work together? And it's even Google's having trouble with it too. I mean, they're not bringing out new versions of the Pixel tablet.
Yeah,
And,
true enough.
the Pixel tablet never really was a tablet.
Yeah, it
first.
wasn't what
more
it should
a
have. What it,
hub first.
yeah, and they shouldn't have called it tablet. They should have given it a different name, but
They
it,
should have.
to be more reflective of what it really was. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with this thing. I have to agree. I don't. It's so easy for them to miss the mark, and I think everybody, in my opinion, lately. I mean, you're now also starting to hear about problems with Microsoft is having, with OpenAI, and they're entirely not getting along. You got to wonder. Are we going to finally slow down a little on some of this nonsense, or is it just going to keep burning in the back end? All of these projects, these AI projects, and these incorporating AI into our OS,
That's a good question. And
I think they simply all reached that point of WTF are we going to do now? They
Yeah,
don't know.
maybe.
Well,
obviously,
and the thing is in the back end, AI is expensive, very expensive in the back end. When you look at how much CPU is needed to run this stuff? I mean, only so much can happen on the neural engine side before it has to farm it off to a cloud server.
I mean, environmentalist or not, this whole notion of, have you seen the carbon footprint of one of these data centers these days? They're insane, the amount of power these data centers are drawing.
I drive past one once a week with the Google data center that's right next to my church. That thing is enormous, and they started building that 2 years ago, and they're still not done building it.
Have any of you driven past the Apple server farm near Charlotte, North Carolina?
No, but I know that's a big one.
It literally puts the biggest Amazon distribution center you've ever seen to shame. It's just enormous. Enormous.
This doesn't surprise me.
You cannot see the end of it from any place.
And the other thing I wonder, and this is just sort of a side note, with all of the problems with NVIDIA lately, you got to wonder if nobody's moving forward as fast, or they're kind of trying to slow down a little bit while NVIDIA gets its house back in order. Because they've got some real problems with their current line of cards, and those cards are used to drive a lot of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So if they can't get their crap together, you have to either figure out an alternate way to do this.
It just kind of feels to me like we've hit a wall of sorts. Not a big one, but
I guess we'll see.
We're all just sitting back wondering now.
I'm wondering is what does this actually mean? I don't know. I don't have a good answer to that, but it does strike me as everybody seems to be backing off at least a little right now. Maybe it's just a hidden lull. I don't know.
And it could be that they're waiting for the tariff situation to straighten out too. I mean,
well, that's true too, because that's why pour more money into it when you don't really know who's going to buy it tomorrow. I get that. They might want to wait for that.
I mean, that's why Apple's and even car manufacturers are starting to look at building their stuff instead of overseas and shipping it over like they have been for years and years and years, building it here, which is a positive thing for the country.
Yeah, but the prices are always higher when you build here, and that's the thing you got to keep in mind. What's the difference in pricing, and are you willing to eat that difference?
Well, and it depends on the brand. It depends on the brand too. I mean, I would agree with that for an American car, but case in point here, I just bought a German car, a BMW, and the dealer we were talking. They said all poop is going to hit the fan when that happens, because BMW and Mercedes are never going to let their parts all be made over here. Some of the, I mean, a lot of the put together stuff will be, but that's it.
Well, and it's all going to depend too, like you said, with tariffs are all going to depend on who do we put tariffs against and who don't we put tariffs against, right? So it's always going to be a challenge. We're not talking about South Korea right now, which is going to affect Kia and Hyundai.
And if you don't do it to one, then the other's going to say, well, why did you tariff me and not him?
And we also have to remember that we do a lot of our sourcing for parts anyway out of Canada and Mexico. So by using those two countries, which was, and the reason we went there was because of NAFTA and the follow-up agreements that were agreed to in 2020. That's why we continue to do them. So backing out of that is going to be challenging for us. We don't have the infrastructure for that yet. And the cost will go up regardless of whether we deal with the tariffs or whether we deal with this other stuff. But it's going to affect our electronics, like we have all said. So that's why I'm kind of shocked that Apple came out with their MacBook Air at a cheaper price. I'm like, oh, okay, glad you did that. Here we go. But all of these things are going to get impacted, and I understand everybody wanting to wait whether to move forward on AI until we see, or at least make aggressive pushes, make their pushes a little less aggressive until we figure out what this is going to look like in the next couple years. We'll see how this spins out. But these little things, I don't mind these little improvements that we're getting in Apple Intelligence. The little things are great, but
looks nice.
But it's not Siri. It's not, and I would rather. By the way, one last thought on that. Siri, I would rather they wait and get Siri right than rush it out. If they're not ready,
absolutely.
Wait.
Absolutely.
I don't care what complaining people do. Just wait and get it right.
Do it right, or don't do it. Or don't do it. Give up on it and move on.
Or don't do it and walk on and say, you know what? We couldn't do it. Back away. They already have pulled the commercials that were talking about it. Yeah. They've already pulled those. I think if they can't get it, then don't do it. But if they're on the right way, it's just going to take more time. Fine. Get us there right. Don't rush it. Please don't rush it. I don't want another Microsoft mistake-a-thon on my hands.
Oh God, no.
We have enough of our hands full with the one mistake-a-thon.
Right. So, and we'll see if we have more of that later on in the show. But I want to move us to our mobile Linux segment.
Oh, good for us.
At this point. And, there's speaking of updates and whatnot. There's a lot that's coming. It's happening with Samsung. Apparently, One UI 7, which includes Android 15, right?
It's based around Android 15
for Samsung devices, right? The interesting, it's apparently set for general release in April.
That's what we're hearing. It's going to be out early April, right? That's what we're hearing. And it looks like it's going to be mostly for the 24 series and 25 series. Well, the 25 series already, but the 24 series. And I don't think they're going much further back there. I heard the 23s might get it. Nothing. I'm not hearing about the Fold 4, but the Fold 6 is going to get it.
Yeah.
I'm not hearing about the Fold 4 or 5.
Right.
So I don't know how far back completely it's covering, but it's coming. And people are pretty geeked about it coming. Most people have been saying that the One UI 7 is probably one of the best One UI releases that they've ever had out. I don't have it on any devices because my Samsung devices are a tiny bit older, so it wasn't available for mine at this point. But I'm looking forward to seeing what it looks like. I liked One UI 6. I mean, I thought it was a decent release. So
and One UI 7 is nice. I mean, I've been playing with it on my Ultra, my S24 Ultra. So I'm pretty pleased with that.
And we have Android 15 on our OnePlus Opens, and I have one Android 15 running in beta QPR2 on my Pixel Fold.
Right.
So Android 15 is a decent. It's not an exciting new release, but it is a decent, solid release in my opinion.
Stability release. Yeah.
It really is. I mean, 14 kind of was too, but the little things are just little things, but it's all very. But we're getting to that point in all of these OSs, right, where the changes are not dramatic; they're just nice little usability.
There aren't.
The better they get, the less there is to change.
Well, because and again, we've all talked about this before. I don't care which platform you're on. If you're an iOS user, if you're an Android user, they've all been moving toward each other for years. The similarities
Absolutely.
are bigger than the differences anymore.
Right.
Really.
Yeah, well, and this month's update for the Pixels is a feature release.
It is a
which
feature
hardly-
release.
And you
Yeah.
hardly heard anybody talking about that because there really isn't that many new features.
There aren't that many new features. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well,
There are
well,
minor
yeah,
tweaks.
and to be honest, there aren't that many new features anymore because we're trying to figure out. I bet there's a lot of folks in engineering departments and in product development department that are trying to figure out, okay, what else now do I add to this? What else
Right.
can I do with this? All right.
Well,
What
Yeah.
can I dream up? Yeah.
But
Right,
we're also coming into an era where we are sadly laying a lot of people in tech off. So you're not going to have the folks to do the development for brand new
right.
exciting
Those
features.
brainstorming. I mean, your power
just
now
not
is
gonna
basically
happen.
down to a sprinkle or a
Well,
drizzle. You
but
can't
people are being
brainstorm
more
anymore.
people are being more cautious about spending money on new releases because
Well,
what if the
companies-
feature tanks? So they're being more conservative about it, and that's fine.
What if
but,
the sky turns orange and we all die tomorrow?
I know, but that
You know?
that isn't how we're behaving, right? That's not how these companies are behaving, and I get it.
No,
They're pulling back on a lot of
and
stuff.
with the new administration and some of the tariffs and things that are going
Yeah,
on,
again, there's a lot of uncertainty, and
the market is in a period of, and when I say the market, I mean the stock market. It's in a period of uncertainty.
Volatility. Yeah.
and contraction to an extent.
A little
and
bit.
We're gonna see this. This is going to be the model for a while.
Somebody's waiting for somebody to go first.
Well, confusion and instability always lead to these kinds of things, and it'll be that way until we get a little more clarity. And at some point we will.
Well, and then you've also got things like the Justice Department now demanding that Google sell off Google Chrome in a new filing.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Justice
Talk about
Department they fundamentally do not understand how open source works and the fact that the core of Google Chrome is open source with the Chromium engine. They don't understand it.
I would even
They don't
broaden the
even
job. They don't understand.
speculatively
They don't understand
understand it.
technology.
No.
Forget open
They
source. They don't
understand
understand
nothing.
technology.
Right. Most
Yes.
of the folks in Washington, the ones with the most power, don't understand
They do not.
what open sourcing allows for and
Yeah.
what they can do with or without open source, right? And it's not just open source that's an issue here.
It's not.
They are effective. If I remember correctly, this was all about Google's how they're placing
monopoly.
search results, how they're placing search results,
Well,
where is it? And
Well, it was
because
are they leveraging-
honestly, the
Yeah.
paid results, right, go far beyond the fold, if you will. All right, they're all not only are they all above the fold, but they go below the fold, and by the fold I mean the bottom of your monitor without having to scroll down any farther. Right, in order to get the actual quote unquote search results, you've got to go scroll down beyond the bottom of your monitor to the bottom, closer to the bottom of the page, all right, to see the organic search results that you pulled back, because there's all paid search results and sponsored results for this, that, or the other thing, blah blah
At
blah.
the real top.
But
Right.
again, the argument was that the browser is the thing they're using to collect the data. And
Mhm.
at the other end, they're driving their advertising business using it. And this is the argument that they're making. It's like, what you're doing is not appropriate and is not competitive. You're anti-competitive and da 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 da. Okay.
True.
Yeah, and that's probably true, but that also drove a lot of their development too. So, take your pick.
Google has gone and used their revenues from advertising, not just in Chrome, but in everywhere else where they go ahead and have ads, to pay for a great many different things, all of the Android updates, all of their hardware updates. I mean, they spread. It's not like they're taking, funds from one thing and throwing it directly back into only that thing, and then driving it home to the point where nobody has another chance. All right. But they are taking all of their money and sort of spreading it around evenly so that nobody else has a real chance to get
Right.
to get a
And
word
that
in
could be
edgewise, you
that
know?
could be argued to be anti-competitive. I understand that. I understand the argument on that. And I've told people for years, you guys heard me say it over and over. Understand that when it comes to these things,
Mhm.
they're
Yeah.
not free. You are the product. Your data is the
Right. And you're
product.
talking about a free
You know,
browser or a free
so
mail application or free
Right.
email address.
And but
and that
it's
is
no
not to
different
say
than Outlook. A free Outlook account comes with ads, and it's just a smaller scale. That's
and
it.
this is not yeah, and this is not to say, you kids don't do this. It's more of a just please be smart, be aware. And that's what this is. This is
Yeah.
this is just another aspect of that whole same conversation is really what it is,
Right.
you know?
But I think part of what is really bothering me about this particular thing is
Just one
that,
thing.
well, look, get off my lawn. All right. Stop giving me shit. All right. 'Cause I'm telling
You and I both agree about this, by the way, so
yes,
you know that.
yes. So
That's what she
what
said.
really concerns me
Yeah.
about all of this is that I a lot of the existing staff for the lower positions, the top positions turn over every 4 years, right?
Yeah.
Um, unless the incumbent wins again, right? And they are reconfirmed for their
Sometimes
particular,
even that, yeah, but sometimes even then, no.
you know. But what I guess what there's it's really only the lower level positions that are consistent and constant from administration to administration. And the ones that float in and out, the ones with the real power, do not understand how technology works, what it does, and not only do they not understand that the American public is the product, all right, they don't necessarily understand how they are the product, why they are the product, um, let alone what Google intends to
Well,
do with
yeah.
the information that they get on the public,
And the
right?
reality is, if you want to quote unquote protect us from that, there are different things you should be doing than this. This is not the
Yes,
thing you need to be doing. There
right,
are other things you can do if that's really what you believe.
right. I have
Right?
consistently seen the Sherman Act misapplied continuously. Somebody says, "Well, this is a monopoly, and you shouldn't be doing that," and I'm going to
Mhm.
charge you with violations of the
Yeah.
Monopoly Act or the
And we all know how breaking up AT&T went. Our
Oh
prices
man,
went through the roof because of that.
it was the biggest cluster bump you have ever
Yep.
seen in your entire life, and I
So
don't want to go through something like that again.
yeah,
You want to talk about the telemarketing industry getting a
and so
just springing up out of nowhere and
out of
people
nowhere.
calling you all the time, every day, out loud
So,
at outrageous times of the night, trying to get you to switch to their product over another product,
let
right?
me try. So let me try to kind of bring us back a little bit here, in the sense that it's kind of wrap this up, the conversation up a little bit. I think it is that you guys know that if anybody's going to probably say anti-negative Google things, it's going to probably be me. And I'm saying, guys, leave this alone.
Yeah.
You know, I'm one of the people saying, leave it alone. This is not the thing you need to be working on.
No,
So please,
I agree.
I don't know if
mean,
anybody listens to us, but hey,
yep.
so
And they really like I said, the open source stuff
they don't get it,
make,
any of it.
it makes
Well-
it irrelevant because
It does.
I mean, all they have to do is bring out a new version of the browser and say, "Oh, here, it's not Chrome anymore; it's Chromium or whatever."
There you go.
And there's
There
a
you
new
go.
version. It's like, and this new tool doesn't do what Chrome did, or and
Right.
it's
Whatever it might be, right?
I mean, it's just not. It's better the way it is. I mean, I am an agent of change. If you're in IT, you must be an agent of change.
Very true.
Or you do not.
Or you
do not
stagnate and
have
die.
a-
That's what happens.
I mean, yeah. I mean, and that's the thing, and it's just frustrating.
It
I have
is
no
very
idea
frustrating,
what they're
guys.
talking about.
Well,
Yeah.
honestly, if you want to do something about this, then, and I hate to say this because it the way that this worked out for Microsoft in Europe with the Internet Explorer antitrust
Ugh.
lawsuit that went through in the late 90s.
Right.
Microsoft had to come up with a dialog box that let a European user select the default browser that they wanted to use. All right.
And there's no reason you couldn't argue. I mean, you've already argued that has to happen on Apple devices. The EU has. You have to be able to select your apps for things, right?
Right.
Well, it's already kind of there for most Android users. You can pick your
the problem
defaults.
is that Apple gets a pretty sweet deal or
They
treatment
do.
from Google by
Pretty
paying
sweet.
Google to be the default system search engine.
But they're not the default browser.
They are not.
They're just the search engine, and that's where this gets a little wonky too. But
Right.
this could take us down a whole nother rabbit hole. So
Well,
That's a $10 billion paycheck annually.
it
Right.
absolutely is.
Right. It is a $1 billion deal, annual deal. But what really kind of, I mean, you could do the same kind of thing. Hey, do you want to use DuckDuckGo? Do you want to use Google? Do you want to use Bing? Do you want to use choose the system level search engine that you want. And that may be a pretty good deal, but I think the biggest concern that we have again is I don't know if everybody understands the difference between the Chrome browser and its wired into-ness into the Google search engine and the search engine that you have on your phone or tablet as the default, right? So again,
but again, they can divorce
it's
those
exactly
without
the
getting rid
same,
of it.
except that it's completely different. Seriously. All right. And if you think about that just for a second, after your brain and your eyes stop twitching, right, you'll understand it makes perfect sense. All right.
But isn't that we estimate we can fill 85% of the screen before we induce seizures.
Yes.
Hey, Nolan Sorrento.
Yes. So, and
I think if they just divorce the two layers from each other a little bit, and they could still leave them both there, just leave, just divorce them a little bit. Maybe that's the solution here. I don't know.
Maybe I don't know. And the problem is, in order to do this right, you need a technical solution.
And these guys are not.
And these guys will not. The ones that are in charge of saying yes, that works, or no, that doesn't work, will not understand the difference in the solutioning.
They are the ones confused by elevator buttons.
Yes.
Yeah, there's that. True.
All right. So I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. Anyway, let's go. I'm gonna just put a pin in that. All right.
Put a pin in that because we're going to come back to this again and again. I suspect. Or some layer of this. So thanks, guys.
So we're gonna put a pin in that, and then it's boop, and there it is. And so the next thing that I want to get to before we get to the break, and this is kind of interesting, and it's sort of a little bit along the lines with the Apple Fold discussion, the iPhone Fold discussion that we had earlier. It's a little bit about One UI 7 that we were talking about before we got into the whole Justice Department thing. The Galaxy Z Flip 7 may actually have a full-sized outer display. Much like
work?
It's foldable. Well, on the Flip, right? On the Flip, and for those of I have one, and for those of you that aren't privy to the video, which is everyone, because we don't do a video show, thank God.
Because we ugly.
Because we have a face for it.
I see. The Flip doesn't take up the whole side.
No, even
to me,
though there are
not a whole screen. Even if it took up the whole side, it's just a side.
Right, it's one side of, and what they're saying is that there's going to be a standard bezel, and that the two camera lenses are going to be part of.
They'll be behind the screen.
They'll be in the screen.
It's going to surround the
screen. Will surround the flash. It will surround the microphone. It will surround the lenses.
I guess I thought they were already there. So
to me, I wouldn't call that a full size outer display. Which to me. What would that would be the outer display goes from the top of the Flip to the bottom of the Flip.
Right. That's what I was thinking, Joel. Exactly that.
Right. But apparently not. So
okay. Well, that's okay. That's still improvement over what they have.
It is. It allows for full use of the outside front of the device, and gives, even though you've got some of that space blocked by the camera lenses and the flash, it does give a fuller picture of what's going on with that particular device. So there you go.
Okay.
All right. And that's what Google is going to, or Samsung is going to be trying to do, according to 9 to 5 Google, with the outer display.
Okay. Well, it's good. It's good.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, I think, wasn't it, Joel? Wasn't it the Motorola Razr?
The Razr Plus, yes.
Yeah, the Razr Plus that had. So this is not new. This is something that Samsung is copying into the Flip 7. The Razr Plus had this about a year or two ago.
Wait. Samsung copying something from somebody else? Oh, say it isn't so.
Oh, there's a song in there somewhere, but unfortunately.
But yeah, I get you.
Yeah,
it's nice to see it.
Yeah. So the Razr Plus Generation 2, right, is going to give us a nice presentation of the way that if you want to see what the Flip 7 is going to look like, go look at the the Motorola Razr Plus Generation 2, and that's really what it should look like. Okay. But that is effectively the first half of the show, and we will continue on with our Windows segment, but we will do so right after this brief message. Hi, this is Christopher Spera from iTechGear.org. I wanted to talk with you today about becoming a contributing donor to the site. iTechGear.org has been around for almost 15 years. In fact, our anniversary is just around the corner on January 10th, 2025. 15 years. Where has the time gone? I mean, I've never really asked for any kind of donations for the site. It's always been about me providing value to you, a site visitor or podcast listener. The iTechGear Weekly is now in its 4th year of production, and Chris G., Joel, and Dr. Mr. Larry McJunkin and I are having a really great time providing you with some of the best free tech talk available from time-tested original internet writers, testers, site founders, and professional writers and editors on the internet. I truly believe that our crew has some of the best and most qualified pundits and commentators on the internet today. And we're not hobbled by any kind of sponsorship or affiliated relationship or other time-bought posts. It all comes from the heart. Unfortunately, times are kind of tough. And since the COVID-19 pandemic of 2020 to 2023, yes, almost 3 full years, times have become increasingly difficult for small independent sites like iTechGear.org to stay afloat. You know, I normally do this with a portion of the salary I make from the day job, but with the IT market so tight right now, it's really difficult sometimes for many to make normal household ends meet, let alone fund a site like iTechGear that might decide to bring in a buck or two. You know, it ain't easy. If you find any of our content on iTechGear or from ITGW to be of any value at all, I would seriously appreciate you donating as little as just $1 to the cause. While we do have a Patreon site, it's hard to keep one website up, let alone 2. And since it's really only me doing the work, our Patreon site hasn't really helped us at all. If you can make a donation to the site or to the show of any amount, I'd be forever grateful. All donations will go to site maintenance, hosting, podcast hosting, and everything iTechGear related. Donations can be made to my PayPal account at chris@itechgear.org. Make a donation. We'll thank you immediately on the next ITGW episode and voice our gratitude. I want to thank you. We appreciate your consideration, time, and attention. Now let's get back to the latest iTechGear Weekly episode. And welcome back to the iTechGear Weekly episode number 124. Spring forward, help, I've fallen and I can't get up. And I want to go and I want to take us into our Windows segment now. And while we're not really going to, I don't know if we could really say that there's a Mistake-a-thon episode in this week's show, which in some ways is very, very good. And in some ways is a little bit disappointing because we do love taking a jab at Redmond every now and again.
Well, they
right?
keep setting us up for it. What are we supposed to do?
I know.
They set them up. We take it down.
They
we can't
tee
help
it
it
up so nicely. You know,
we can't help it.
I can't.
Okay.
But apparently Microsoft has an update on the issue that they've been having with shared folders in OneDrive. So for those of you that have been having this problem, all right, instead of when you click on this link, instead of getting the contents of the folder, you get a internet shortcut link, which is very, very because it doesn't get you where you need to go. It doesn't get you the contents of the folder. So apparently now they have fixed this. Yeah, I don't know. See, when working normally, the user should be able to open the folder and be able to access the files within as you would normally in File Explorer. All right, but for the past week, the only way to access files within these shares folders is to use a web browser and manually download or go through hoops to open these up with Office apps. This has broken entire environments where most users have never even used the web UI before, never mind downloading the files manually or trying to sync them in with the desktop Office applications, or at least trying to, if you've got this file out there and you want multiple people to collaborate into this thing, it is a freaking nightmare. You're never going to get all of the changes to come back in and put them in the right place. With everything
and we
else.
talked about this in the pre-show that in Excel, for some reason, something changed. And instead of when you were putting hyperlinks in your Excel sheet, instead of the hyperlink showing up, we're actually getting a link to the OneDrive.
Right. That's exactly the bug.
And that's not supposed to happen.
No.
That's not supposed to happen.
That's the bug.
They haven't completely fixed it, kids. That's what I'm going to say. So I guess this isn't the mistake, kind of in the mistake-a-thon. It's a glitch. It's a bug.
It's a glitch, but I wouldn't necessarily call it I wouldn't necessarily call it mistake-a-thon worthy. All right.
No,
this is standard bug stuff.
This is standard bug stuff. Because it was working, it broke. Now, hopefully they'll get it fixed at some point.
They're trying to fix it. So good luck on that.
Okay.
If, however, they were to go ahead and throw in an update and it didn't work and it did something else, then okay.
Then it's a mistake-a-thon. Okay, I got you. I got you.
But yeah. So this may be a candidate for a mistake-a-thon. However,
you're not sure on this one, but you're right.
Not sure. It could be. It all depends on how folks are going to look at this, right?
Yeah.
And whether or not they find it problematic enough. MS Publisher is actually being discontinued and being pulled out of the Microsoft Office suite. Now, what really kind of throws me here on this, all right, is that for most now Publisher is that one application that allowed you to create greeting cards and flyers and different kinds of really cool sort of digital or paper based things that didn't quite fit in Word or didn't quite fit in PowerPoint or anywhere else, especially greeting cards where you could print them out. You make that quad fold sort of thing and you could print out your own greeting cards, and some of them were actually kind of nice. All right, but for ads, flyers, brochures, banners, signs, posters, this is what for those that are out there that remember an Apple program or a Broderbund application called Print Shop, right? This was
Print Shop was a little more basic than that one. This is more,
but it was meant for but it did all this kind of stuff, right? It was a desktop. It was one of the very, very first desktop publishing applications, and that's what Publisher is a desktop publishing app. But
which for those of us who remember back in the day, this is different than a word processor in the
yes,
way that it handles formatting. It treats
Mhm.
it
yes,
formats at the page level for everything, pretty
yes,
much. And
yes.
it's a little different spin than you get out of a Word document, which is sort of a continuous document that breaks up into pages.
Right.
So
So what's really
interesting.
disappointing about this is that before Publisher came out, we tried doing all of these things in Word.
We did. We
Or we
did.
tried doing all of these things in PowerPoint, right?
Didn't really
We
work well.
even, depending on how things went, if you got depending on how desperate you got, you tried even Excel because you couldn't get things to space in the right places.
Yeah.
That didn't work. And so, unfortunately, there aren't a lot of folks that are using desktop publishers anymore, at least
True.
not Microsoft brand or kind. And what Microsoft is now telling us to do is, okay, because you were using Word and PowerPoint and were complaining that it didn't work, we gave you Publisher, but you aren't using it enough. So we're going to take it away from you, and we suggest that you go back to using
Word.
Word and PowerPoint.
And PowerPoint. Yeah, it's interesting. Other thing I would have to think, it's also part of the Office suite when you subscribe.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so are people who have the Office suite who now just got a price increase, by the way, folks.
Unless you're on a Mac and you never have got it there.
Yeah, but if you have the Office, well, you can run
That's
it on
true.
there. No, the Publisher. You're right.
Publisher was
I
never
thought
there.
you were talking about the Office suite for a minute. It's like, wait a
Right.
minute. No, but you're
No,
right.
no.
Publisher's never been there.
Publisher's never been
But
there
the
for
point
that.
I'm getting at is you just gave us a price increase, which was a
Mhm.
hidden pay for Copilot kind of thing.
Mhm.
And now you're taking away part of the component. Whether or not I use that component heavily or not is irrelevant. You're taking away something that you had been giving me before. It's going away. How do I feel about it?
Right.
Not bothering me anymore.
As a customer, taking away part of what I'm paying for after you just price increased me is kind of a bad move. It has a bad look about it. It's bad optics.
Right. It is. And unfortunately, all the templates that you might want to use in now in Word or PowerPoint.
And there were a lot of templates for Publisher.
There were that allowed you to create ads or flyers or brochures,
Absolutely true.
or banners or signs, certificates, business cards, invoices, applications and forms, calendars, different kinds of envelopes or labels or letterhead or a newsletter. All right. Or, event programs and folded paper projects, and then greeting cards, compliment cards, or whatever. There really isn't a good place to do this now. You're making me, you're shoving me back into the mess that I had before you gave me the solution. And now,
especially trifolds. Everybody used Publisher to build their trifolds before they sent them to a publisher, a real printer.
Yep.
Now, what are they going to use?
Well, so first
an outdated version of Publisher.
Well,
yeah,
first thing is
long, then you can't.
Because Quark still exists. Quark Express still exists.
So my understanding is that this is not going away till October 2026, first of all.
Right.
So you got over a year to quote unquote do whatever you're going to do.
Right.
And
maybe somebody will step up.
Well, maybe, and the Office 365 version won't work anymore. But if you bought a perpetual license to it, yes, that'll still work, and you could switch. I'm sure you can find one probably pretty inexpensively online and buy that, one of the services that sells those, and put that on your machine if you really have a need for it. But consider this a public service announcement. They're getting rid of it in a year and a half, and you're going to need to do something. But it's not today. They're not getting rid of it today, but soon enough.
They are not getting it today.
You're just getting the warnings now that, by the way, it's going away
now, so that you cannot say later on you didn't tell me. They're telling you that what I'm telling you, they told you.
And they've done this before, and they follow through on it. So
they do.
Let's assume that it's going bye-bye.
Just be aware. All right.
Yep.
So yeah. Anyway, Joe, the last thing I want to do in our Windows segment here, I want there's been some updates to Intel's product line. Apparently, they have new Core Ultra 2 chips, and how do they stack up against the competition, Joel? What's going on there?
they just announced the most powerful lineup of commercial AI PCs ever with the Core Ultra 200U, 200H, HX, blah blah blah. Yeah, and and it's basically
This is what their commercial lineup.
Yeah. They got 200U, 200H, 200HX, 200S.
200S, yeah,
All right,
200V.
as well as the Intel Core Ultra 200V series.
2.4 times better than the previous generations.
Okay.
Is what
Okay.
they're saying,
So,
yeah. But my thing here is it gonna beat the M series? I don't think so. I mean, the every Intel chip is going to use more power than any Apple M series chip is. That's just the way it is right now.
Yeah, and I think
Even
it's
the
important to
new
note,
version.
and that's a fair thing to mention, because I think what's going to happen is they might become faster than the M series,
Right.
and we've seen this in the past. But the price is always a lot more power, and when we're
a lot
talking
more
about
power and a lot hotter.
and hotter, and when again, we kind of mentioned earlier in the show, we're talking about these data centers that are sucking up power. It's going to start to be a thing. People are going to start to be very concerned about this because it adds to the cost of everything.
Yeah.
Adds to the cost of running things and doing business. And
then what do you do with all that generated heat?
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
I mean, if you could take that generated heat and pump it back through something to disperse that heat, maybe, to warming centers during
something.
the winter or something, or take that energy and repurpose it somehow, recycle that energy to do something else. That might be helpful. However, right, but that's in data centers and whatnot. These are
Of course.
these are commercial chips, right? These are the ones that are going to be in the processor, the processors that are going to be in your desktop or laptop
Mm-hmm.
machines. And what's really weird is I've got a stack of laptops, and I do my best to keep them all updated and whatnot with the latest patches of Windows and operating systems, etc. And I had my Surface Pro 8 out, and I had it on my lap. It's not a very lappable machine, and it fell over on my lap, and I had a pair of shorts on at the time, and it
You got
scorched my
burned.
leg.
Yeah.
It burnt my leg.
Yeah.
It burns.
Let me add to this. I mean, there's a nice chart in the article that we link.
Right.
It kind of shows some comparison performance things against AMD's Ryzen's, against the Qualcomm Snapdragon Elites. And guess what? It's not very much faster than the Snapdragon Elites, which run much more efficiently.
Right.
And the Snapdragon Elites aren't quite as good as the Apple M series. So guess what, kids? Yeah. They're just not quite
right. I mean, at best, all right, they are 15% faster or 15% more efficient.
Whatever it is,
on whatever it is that they are,
at best.
Measuring. At best,
their numbers are against the Ryzen. If you look at that chart, that's what they're talking about.
Yeah,
against the AMD Ryzen,
against the Ryzen, as well as guys, it's really teeny tiny.
Blow it up. You can blow up in the upper right hand corner.
All right, so it's up against the Core Ultra 7 165.
They were at the previous, the
previous generation. The AMD Ryzen AI 7 Pro 360 and the Snapdragon X Elite X1E80.
But look at the Snapdragon. That's the ARM-based chips.
Yeah,
that's where we think things should be going. But look at the comparison; they're not much faster than those. And that generation chip is a year old.
10% faster in ProScience Office productivity. They are only 10% faster than.
That's the last generation of that thing. That was a year ago. Those things came out.
Their Geekbench 6.3 single core score is only 7% better. Right.
Yeah.
And their
just not all that.
Cinebench 2024 single core benchmark is only 15% better.
And again,
honestly, compared
this is against
to the
AMD,
X
this
Elite,
is the number they're looking at. The AMD numbers are the numbers.
The Snapdragon X Elite, it's only like maybe 1 or 2% better.
Yeah,
All
in
right.
most cases, it's really not anything
Right.
to
So
write home
the
about.
percentages that they are citing are versus the last year's processor, their own last year's processor.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it's not that much better. They need
It's
a
disappointing.
completely new
Well,
die.
we've said it before. They
They
need
need
to
to
think
throw
about going
this.
toward ARM or something and making that leap.
Yeah,
They need to
they've got
make that.
because this core technology, the Intel Core die, the engineering around this is not going to be efficient enough. It's not going
Yeah,
to be
I would
fast enough.
agree.
It's not going to be efficient enough. And it's going to be way too doggone hot to put in a laptop.
Yeah,
You're going to have fans that are constantly running because you're going to cook yourself as well as the insides of your laptop.
it's definitely getting there. That's for sure. I have to say,
I'm getting
There's
to the
a
point
reason
where
why my laptop's not sitting on my lap right now. It's too damn hot.
yeah, it really just kind of bothers me, and I really just don't like the way that Intel is handling all of this. If they don't do something about this and do something quick, they're gonna suffer.
I mean, the rate they're going, the odds of them actually being able to make a chip here in Ohio is slipping farther and
It
farther.
is. I'm afraid.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
afraid we're seeing that. Yep.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Which doesn't lead well to the idea of building this stuff inside America, does it?
Or the CHIPS Act. Yeah, you
No.
can't.
No, it doesn't.
Biden was touting that all till the end.
Yeah. Well, those programs are cut.
That is going away. I mean, that's gonna. I mean,
It's going to
they
affect
were
things.
supposed to be producing chips already, but
Yeah.
they're not.
Yeah.
And that. I mean, this is. These aren't going to be good enough. They really aren't. I mean, there's
That's
a lot
my
of people. I
thought.
mean, I never thought that I would completely leave Intel, but here I am. I'm gonna probably for all my prime systems. I mean, I'm looking at a MacBook Air. I mean, why do I want to buy an Intel chip at this point? I don't.
They're surprisingly solid, aren't they? The M
series
series.
chips, absolutely.
Yeah.
I really thought, when we were on, back on the Motorola 6800 or 68.
Oh gosh, back in the area.
Back in the day, I mean, it was really, really, going to a power PC chip. I thought, well, my God, we're gonna get, nothing's gonna come of this. It's gonna be, and it really kind of was a non-starter. It was a non-thing. They thought it was gonna be, the greatest thing now, and it really, unfortunately, wasn't.
Yeah. They kind of did it wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
They went to Intel and things kind of turned around when they for them in terms of sales and whatnot. And then when they people had the same kind of thoughts, well, I don't know. Geez, you're getting off of the standard platform and you're gonna go on your own. Oh my goodness. It's gonna be, the power PC all over again. There were some folks out there that were, with the doom and gloom.
Even
thankfully,
Microsoft is bringing out PCs based on Qualcomm chips and ARM-based chips, and the writing's on the wall for Intel hardware.
Long term, I think so. Yeah.
yeah. Long term.
How long
the
have we
writing
been
is on the
saying
wall.
that?
Well, and it's slowly happening. And we also said it may not happen at a fast clip, but it's happening.
Oh, definitely. I let's see. This time next decade, they won't be here.
No.
They won't be here. All right, which means you got 5 years to get your money out of Intel and put it into something else. So,
Certainly not if they keep going the way they're going.
no. So I'd say get out. But that's just me. That's depressing.
Okay.
That's depressing. I'm going to move us to something that's going to hopefully cheer us up.
I can take that. That's
Okay.
We'll go with that.
Okay, good. Let's do that then. All right. I'm going to move us to our tip of the week segment. But before we get there, I want to remind everybody, hey, iTechGear was founded on the intent of making technology easy for everyone to use and understand. And this team specifically has dedicated their writing careers to that specific purpose. So every week, the iTechGear Weekly will have a new computing tip authored by one of our experienced editors. You hear that, guys? Experienced editors. That's you guys.
That's
Oh,
us. Wow.
us. Well, okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
Right?
All right. Um, if you guys have questions or requests or questions or suggestions or whatever, you can send all of that uh, um, uh, communication to us here at tips@itechgear.org. And if we use what you got, if we want to reply to what you sent, we'll give you your 15 seconds of fame on this show. But I want to go ahead and I want to get to this week's tip. It's another Android tip.
Yeah. Okay.
So, we've been talking a lot about um, new Android devices and some of the new form factors that are coming out and some of the updates to the existing form factors that are coming out. Most every Android device has some kind of, and even iOS does too. There's a quick settings menu. And did you know that these things are customizable? Did you know
Yes.
that you can go ahead and actually change what's there to make it exactly what you need every day? I mean, all you've really got to do is get to your home screen and then pull down from the upper right corner, and you've got all these wonderful little buttons and widgets and whatnot that will
We
allow you
do.
to change or quickly get after specific functions or activities on your phone. You can go ahead and edit those, and you've got a number of different selections, and you can just hold and drag from bottom to top or from left to right, rearrange them any way you want, and you can customize that menu to have it be exactly whatever it is that you need to have a quick shortcuts to, because you use that particular function all the time, whether it is your camera or your flashlight or changing Bluetooth devices or turning Bluetooth on and off or battery saver or whatever. You can go ahead and get to that page and then change it all around whatever way you want. We'll have an article up on the site in the coming week or two, and on how to do this on a couple of different Android systems, so that you can see where that might be on your device, and then put those functions within your reach, and all you've got to do is swipe down, tap, and go. And that's the tip of the week.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm going to move us to our pick of the week. And before we get there, I want to remind everybody that our show picks are typically hardware, software, and other items of interest that we have individually purchased and actually use, and we like enough that we want to recommend them to you, our faithful listener. These are not paid advertisements or
Thanks,
items.
Chris's mom.
Yeah. Not paid advertisements or items for which we have any affiliated marketing relationship with. These are just sincerely things that we believe in, and we want to if they were some sort of an affiliated marketing relationship or paid advertisements. Did you know that we have an editorial policy on iTechGear?
We do, don't we?
We do, and it says that if what we're going to go ahead and pick and show you is something that falls within that affiliated marketing relationship or paid advertising, we have to disclose that up front. But these are sincerely things that we just like, and we want to bring to you at the end of each show. Why?
Because we like you.
We like you.
There you go. 124 episodes, still can't get it together.
But we were close.
Larry, you've got the pick this week. What do we got?
I do have the pick, and nothing could embody that pick description that you gave more than this. I absolutely love this little thing. I'm on my second generation. According to the digital product census takers, there are about 50 million people in the United States who use an Apple TV. I didn't think it was that high.
That's
but
1/6 of the entire country.
1/6 of the entire whatever. A lot of folks use that thing, and a lot of them aren't Apple people. They just use it because it's the best TV media streaming device out there. I've tried them all, and I have probably most of them. And
Holy
a couple of
streaming
them are
box,
good.
Batman. I mean,
Huh?
really. Holy streaming box, Batman. I mean, come on.
Yeah, a media device. Anyway, since the advent of the Apple TV, it's had one thing forever consistent. Its remotes have absolutely sucked. The product is wonderful. The first set of remotes, or first couple of remotes it had, were so tiny that they were forever lost between the pillow cushions. The next series was a little bigger, a square object, still gets lost, still hard to hold, hard to use because it's slippery. And it's you don't want your remote being slippery. You can't use it. So the latest Apple TV protective cover that I have found to be the best out there, it's made by Fintie, Fintie. We have a link to this in the show notes. For $6.98, they do an amazing job to fix these problems. This is a sturdy, kind of a heavy silicone rubber case, not flimsy like an Apple phone case, that fits the remote perfectly.
Okay.
Makes it easy to hold. It's very grippy. It won't slide down between those sofa cushions. I have 3 Apple TVs, and I just replaced the old protective cases with these. It's amazing. It's got the new one has a more of a textured feel to the outside of it. And instead of holes where you press the side buttons for volume, for various functions like talking to Siri, it has the integrated suspended hard buttons, kind of like an Apple phone case. It's another one of those handy little gizmos you wonder how you can ever live without and how they can even make it for $7. So links on the website. If you have an Apple TV, you truly need this. They're a great little product.
Right.
That's it.
So specifically, this is not for the Apple TV remote from the Apple TV second and third generation. This is not for the Apple TV Siri remote first generation for Apple TV 4K fourth and
It's
fifth
the new
generation.
square ones only, right?
Right. Or even the Apple TV HD. This is for the Apple TV Siri remote second and third gen from 2021
Right.
or 2022 and later, right?
And later. It'll fit the ones today plus the ones from 21 and 22.
Yes. I just want to make certain because these things,
Yep.
they look really, really nice. All right. But
They are.
But they are really a square or rectangular. They've got flat edges, right? The other two are different sizes and different shapes.
They make a case for them as well, but it's different.
But it's different. But
This is the Siri, what we call the Siri remote.
Right.
That's the
It is in
last
fact the Siri
generation or two.
remote, correct.
And that's the one that was one that was primarily focused around its pressing the button to talk to it,
right.
as opposed to typing things in or using the arrow keys to get around.
Right.
Okay. And I would have pointed, this looks really, really good, but I would point out that if you're not going to get black, the prices do go up a little bit.
Yep, that's true.
So,
Right.
but
So black
still-
is $6.99.
yeah,
Right. As of this broadcast.
exactly.
All right. For the black, any other color could be anywhere between $8.99 and $9.99.
Yeah, they're not exactly out of control in terms of
No.
the pricing
No,
They are a little
by
bit
any
different.
stretch. Yeah,
they are a
I
little
think
bit
it's
very,
great.
very high quality. I'll say that.
Looks really good. Looks
Mhm.
really good.
All right. Well, that, kids, as we say, is the show. This has been the iTechGear Weekly, episode number 124. Spring forward, fall, help, I've fallen and I can't get up. Recorded Sunday, March 9th, 2025. That lady, that's that lady again. She can't keep herself. She can't keep herself
I've
vertical that way.
fallen and I can't get up.
That's her. Live from
Yeah.
my Tech Gear Central, as I said, I'm Christopher Spera, and for Brother Joe McLaughlin, Mr. Chris Gavula, and Dr. Mr. Larry McJunkin, I want to say, hey, we will see you next time.